So good morning, everyone, and thanks for joining us this morning. I know 9 a.m. on a Friday after 3 days at Dreamforce. Hope you guys are having a great time. Woohoo! Great. Excellent. Thank you. So for the next hour, we're going to talk about service desks. We're going to talk about how you can use Salesforce for your employees. And really the goal here is to talk about best practices, right? Best practices of rolling out a service desk and really focus on things as you start looking at some advanced functionality like ITIL, KCS certification, or how to bring that into your service desk, even CMDB. So this is a session that's going to focus on service desk. We have two great speakers here with me. My name is Montu Mavi. I run SC team here, a sales engineering team here that focuses on Service Cloud. So I talk to a lot of customers. I talk about service desk almost all day long with my customers. But really the goal is to have you talk to two of our customers. David Shield, who's from Phoenix Technologies. David is the Salesforce administrator, and he has rolled out Service Desk for Phoenix Technologies, and he's going to share his story of his vision, his story of how he rolled it out. And then after that, we're going to have Amanda Roberts from Stone Cobra. Now, for those of you who don't know Amanda, Amanda has been living the life of ITIL, KCS, talking about the strategy of rolling it out in your organizations for a long, long time. So Stone Cobra is a partner of Salesforce as well, and we're not here to talk about like partner solutions, but really to talk about best practices. So that's why we requested Amanda to come and join us to talk about where ITIL is heading, KCS, and what does that really mean to you from a service desk perspective. Now they also have a product that they've built called Bitwiper. We'll give you a small preview of that as well. Again, the goal is, as you start looking at those advanced functionalities, what are the things you got to keep in mind? So Amanda will share a lot of that information with everybody here. Now, it's a smaller audience today, so traditionally what we do in our sessions is we have our presenters come up, present. We ask you to come up with ask the questions at the very end. But given it's a small group, let's keep it very interactive. As the two speakers come up, if you have any questions, raise your hand, and we'll love to answer those questions right there. So by now you all have seen the safe harbor statement, right? You all know this. We're a publicly traded company. You can read more about it on our website. So with that, I'm going to actually ask David to come over to the desk and talk to us about Phoenix Technology, who they are, and how they're using Salesforce for Service Desk.
All right. Thank you very much. Good morning. Good morning. So I am the Salesforce administrator over at Phoenix Technologies, and got a few slides just to talk about the company, who we are, to give you some context behind what I've built. Phoenix is a 30-year-old company. They're one of the original and one of the largest BIOS makers in the world. We recently announced the fastest BIOS, meaning you can turn on your computer and see it go from on to the Windows screen in under 2 seconds. So this is coming out very soon, hopefully, and we're headquartered in Milpitas, California. We have a short commute from here. We've got offices all over the world, including, well, around the United States, Korea, Japan, Taiwan, and India. And, well, we've been, as it says, a Salesforce customer since 2002, although I joined this year in April, so I haven't been with the company too long. We do have, as it says, 7 customer support groups, distinct groups throughout the company worldwide, both internal and external support. The slide just gives you an idea of the products that we have. Just to let you know, Phoenix is, in addition to the BIOS company, is now providing software at the consumer level. So we have our traditional sales model, but now we've also introduced e-commerce where they're selling products directly to the consumer. So I was asked in April to roll out a new help desk system, or a new system for the entire IT group worldwide. And I was given a challenge that it had to be as soon as possible. They wanted me to make sure that I just focused on what was available out of the box in this first phase. The system, of course, needed to keep up with a very dynamic team. As I mentioned, a worldwide team, so 24/7 almost. We needed to introduce change control management to make sure updates were rolled out and visible to the teams that they were affecting. The system that we were on, one of the challenges was that reports were very difficult to make. If you needed to build a report, you pretty much had to work with somebody in IT to get it done. And lastly, we wanted an employee portal. We wanted a way to make all the tickets and requests visible to the employees. And so the challenge there was that that employee list needed to be maintained live out of our Oracle system inside of Salesforce. So right away, we knew email to case was going to be needed. We knew we were going to have queues set up for the different groups. We have case assignment to the queues, but not to the direct individual. Generally, a case comes into the help desk request queue, is from there monitored. Notifications are sent out by email, but the queue is monitored, and tickets moved around from there manually when needed. So we've built dashboards to make sure SLAs are maintained. We can see that I am the one with the most tickets right now, if we looked at our dashboard, because I've been here all week. So reports are emailed to all the stakeholders, of course, letting them know what's going on with their departments. And I've introduced, I kind of touched on this a second ago, but change control with approvals. I'm going to talk a little bit about that. I didn't use approval workflow for this first phase, even though that is an out-of-the-box functionality, but instead I just set up a way for emails to be stored, for historical recording. So all of this was just using standard functionality. For the employee portal, I used customer portal. It was very quick to set up. When logging into this customer portal, all that you can see is home and cases. Future phases, I'll probably introduce things like ideas and content. To get the employee data into Salesforce, I used cast iron. I'd never used cast iron before. I've seen it used, but I didn't have any experience with it. So the company purchased cast iron. We purchased a cast iron appliance, and they sent a couple of us for a week's training. Following that 1 week of training, I was able to come back and literally within hours set up an integration between Oracle HR and Salesforce.com. It was all point and click. And then lastly, on this slide, workflows for new hires and terminations. We're a large worldwide company, so we have a lot of HR tickets coming into the system to make sure that facilities is aware that this new person is joining, get the cube set up. IT is aware, so let's get the Active Directory set up for them. So I utilized workflow on a case to basically create tasks against a case and assign it out to the right people. And so these cases automatically come into Salesforce from Oracle using email to case. And then the tasks are automatically fired off by the workflow and created by the workflow. And as I'm going through this, please, if you have questions, I don't have a demonstration of the setup, but I'd gladly explain how I set something up or how I approach the problem. So our new system got built in 4 weeks. And again, as a only Salesforce.com administrator there, it was interesting at times, but we managed to do it in 4 weeks. And one of the reasons that we were successful in doing that, of course, the flexibility inside of Salesforce, but also the support from the departments that I was working with. The IT department knew their processes very well. So I was able to use an iterative approach to the design of the new help desk system and basically design it on the fly, have meetings with them, find out a little bit about what they wanted, go back, build it, show them. I didn't follow a formal requirements gathering process or waterfall project methodology. We just kind of went into this head on.
David, if you could talk about a little bit about the adoption, like how did you drive the adoption of the portal that you rolled out to your employees? Were there any challenges with that, or how did you guys address that?
Sure. Well, as soon as we got it set up, the director of IT sent out an email to the entire company announcing the new help desk, announcing the new services available, and describing how to log into the employee portal. We provided some screenshots, and he'd follow that up fairly regularly with emails saying, hey, have you logged into the portal? Do you know you can access your tickets here? And also, when we open or close a ticket in our help desk, it sends out a notification to the requester saying, you've opened a ticket, here's your ticket number, and then here's some other ways you can get help. Did you know you can log into the portal? Here's how you log in, here's where you go. So on opening a ticket or closing a ticket, we've got all that information. So just a quick diagram of what we were able to roll out in this time period. So you can see my IT group is made up of really three main functions. Production operations for managing all our servers, corporate help desk for all the general support inquiries, and my team, business systems, for application support, for the support of the Oracle API and other systems. In green, I've got project requests under here, because for my group specifically, I got selfish and created a custom object to handle project requests. So as we get new projects for our group, we have a form that we can fill out. It's a custom object. I basically did it on the side and put it together in about 15 minutes, 20 minutes, and showed my manager, here's what we can do with a custom object. So she liked it so much, it's now on the track for multiple phases. I'm hoping to get in project schedules and things like that as child objects later on. We were able to roll out, of course, support requests coming in via email to case, telephone, or the portal. Provisioning of new employees, new hires, all handled via this workflow and task management or activity management. So one of the things I didn't mention earlier was on the email to case, or on the whole case management system that we have, I had to separate out the help desk and the IT department from the rest of the organization. We have 7 distinct customer support groups, so they all needed to be separated from one another in order to, of course, make the data clean, make information easy to find. So I used record types for this, and each group has their own basic layout pertaining to the type of support that they're providing. And then, of course, as you can see, employee portal, auto assignments, SLA notifications, all very easy to set up using standard functionality. So, any questions on any of this? No? Yes? Sure. It's early still, but I'm planning to open it up in the employee portal as a separate tab. And they'll just be able to go and create a new record. And the questions are the fields in there are pretty basic. What is a project? What is it impacting? What is the cost of the project going to be? Internal headcount, license, etc. So it'll be a basic form just for capturing the project details and then getting approval on it later on. And afterwards, of course, attaching project schedule and all that and keeping track of it all in one place. So, but today really, we gather the information via email and we input the information. My team inputs the information directly. So, yeah.
David, I got a question for you. So, this was a project that you got. You had to roll it out in 4 weeks, and it was an additional work to everything else you are supposed to do on a daily basis.
Yes.
So now that you've rolled it out, if you go back and look at it again, if you were to redo this, what are some of the lessons learned? What are the things that you think you could have done differently? Or what are some of the recommendations from you if somebody wants to roll out a service desk solution using Salesforce? Things to keep in mind, people to talk to, and really, what are the processes they might want to look at that would be helpful if you were to go back now and say, if I'm redoing this whole project, here's the 2 or 3 things I would absolutely do again, or try to do it differently?
Well, the project, like I said, was very successful because of the input that I got from the parties I was working with. The IT group really helped me and guided me in what they wanted. So without that, I don't know it would have been as easy to roll out. So in other projects that I work on, I tend to spend more time gathering requirements, documenting it out, making sure I have a defined scope signed off on, which of course elongates the project schedule. So future projects I'll tackle that way, but additionally with this, we got help from, well, we have Premier support, so I was able to call in and ask a lot of questions throughout this process and get some great help from Salesforce. So all of that really helped. In terms of what I do differently, well, actually, in terms of next steps, really, this was a first phase to the project. This was almost a proof of concept, but it ended up working very well. So the next steps will be, well, we're going to hopefully utilize some more customization. We definitely have a need at this point where, okay, we've used the standard functionality. Now we want to take it to the next step and introduce some Apex triggers and possibly some visual force pages, you know, to make the experience of the IT support rep a little easier, help them click through fields a little quicker and not have to switch multiple screens, right, to enter the information. So that'll be next steps. One of the positive and always fun things of this is other departments in the company, you know, they saw how quickly we were able to roll this out and how well it's worked. So now I'm getting the interest from other groups in the company coming to me. Engineering has recently approached me, said, hey, you know, we saw that portal, it looks good. We want to get that out for our customers. We want to start having our customers giving us direct feedback. So recently we've been introducing some new portals and having a lot of interest from just around the company on using Salesforce. All right. Thank you, everybody.
Thanks, David. So guys, next, let's talk about, as even David talked about next steps for him, this was a pilot and rolling it out. Let's have Amanda talk to us about best practices. If you're taking service desk from an entry level to a place where, you know, you're running your organization, which could be multi-tiered or multinational in different offices, what are the best practices, things to do? So with that, Amanda.
Great. Thank you, Mantu. So a little bit about Stone Cobra and what we do is we really specialize in the best practices for service and support organizations. So what does that mean, to this crowd? Mainly it boils down to ITIL and KCS, so that's what I'm going to talk to you guys a little bit about today. The problem is every time I talk to people about best practices, the eyes start to glaze over. It's a process. How do I touch and feel a process, right? So at Stone Cobra, we're actually technologists. All the little badges that I got to put up on my title slide is, because we have all the certified developers and all of that. So at heart, this is what we do. We're experts in the best practice, but we create the software tools from it because that makes us all feel more comfortable. We can touch it and click it, and all of a sudden we now know what it means. So it's really the best practice in the process that's most important for you guys to have, to understand how that can help you. But to really get it, most people want to see it in a tool and a technology, and that can really facilitate and enable what's going on. So I will kind of separate the two in the conversation, but they obviously go hand in hand as well. So how many have actually heard of ITIL? Oh, this is good. Most everybody. How many people actually ITIL certified either personally or their process? Good. We've got at least a third of the crowd. So I'm going to introduce to those of you who didn't raise your hand a little bit about ITIL, but I'm not going to go into gory details because if you don't know it, you'll be bored to death, and if you already know it, you'll be bored to death. So let's go to the next bit. KCS, anybody heard of KCS? Oh, wow, I love this crowd. I'm so glad you guys actually got up at 9 a.m. to come. So you're making my life a whole lot easier here. So KCS, there was only a few hands that didn't raise their hand. Basically, KCS, knowledge-centered support, very, very popular in the customer support arena. starting to be more and more popular in the IT help desk. So I bring it up here as a secondary consideration in addition to ITIL, so I'm not going to spend a lot of time on it. We do have a session right after this one in the West Mezzanine, room 250, if you guys are more interested in KCS. But basically, it's also focused on efficiency, on engaging your agents, on sharing the knowledge that they have, and of course, increasing your customer satisfaction, your customers being your employees here with the help desk. If you want more info on KCS, it was developed by the Consortium for Service Innovation. They've got a lot of info out on their website. Go check it out. The practices guide, which is the actual definition of KCS, is out there. And we're proud at Stone Cobra that we just won the Innovator Award last week from the consortium. So we also have a lot of knowledge. If you don't want to dig through all their stuff, just email me or call me. I'll be happy to distill some of the ideas for you. So ITIL, for about a third of you who didn't raise your hand here, I want to give you the high-level idea of what ITIL is. So it's the overarching best practice here that tells you basically how to run your IT organization. So help desk is one piece of IT. So if you can imagine an instruction manual that tells you how to run all of IT, that's kind of a crazy thought, right? And this is what ITIL is. It was developed by the OGC, which is a division, the Office of the Government of Commerce, a UK division that decided, look, we've got to get a little more standard processes here. You can be an IT department in almost any company, and there's a lot of things that you should be doing right and you should be doing consistently. And it doesn't matter if you make widgets or sell services, because this is all IT. So this is what ITIL is. It is literally a set of books. So people refer to it as the books of ITIL, and literally you buy the books. There are 5 books of ITIL in the current set. A lot of people use this graphic or something similar to describe ITIL, and so from the big perspective, what I want you to get from this is it's a lot. So if you go outside of here and you go on the expo hall and you try to find people who know ITIL or support ITIL or do ITIL as customers, you are going to find that old parable of everyone looking at the elephant with a magnifying glass, because trying to be ITIL or do ITIL, it is so much that you can do. Looking at the 5 books here, we've got service strategy, service design, service transition, service operation, and then continual process improvement. The entire IT help desk falls under just one of those sections, the orange arrow, service operations. So you can just imagine, literally when you buy the books, it's like this big on your shelf of what everything ITIL tells you how to do, from change management and operations to how to effectively staff your employees in IT to how to troubleshoot a problem. So when you talk to people about ITIL personally, get a little more specific about what you're interested in, because otherwise you may be talking this direction, they're talking that direction, and you think you're in 2 completely different topics. That's how broad of a subject matter it is. It's like saying you have a degree in computer science. Does that actually tell your friend what you know or what you did? I mean, it's very generic, right? We know you're not a biologist, but other than that, we don't know very much. So the key piece that we tend to focus on is, ITIL is good for a reason. Best practices are called best practices for a reason. They looked at what everybody's doing. They either went through trial and error, or they had survey companies that went out and said, what is the best part of why this works for you and why it's efficient for you, and is that portable across companies? And if so, let's bring that together into a best practice. So the numbers are great. You guys can read up here, 86% of the SLA goals achieved. So when I first read that, I was like, oh, only 86%. Where's the 100%, right? I mean, it's an SLA for a reason. But the thing is, nobody's IT department is perfect today. So when you look at the delta of, well, what does everybody achieve without ITIL? They're achieving a much lower number. In fact, the 86% is 139% better than those people who aren't doing ITIL. So that's a little scary if you think of what that SLA goal number is if you aren't doing ITIL. So it's all about meeting your customers' needs. The efficiency here 83% efficiency rate if you're doing idle, which is 112% better than people who aren't doing it on average, and a 63% cost savings. So better, faster with, you know, less budget requirements, and that's what we all want in general, right? So to people who are still saying, yeah, okay, but what is idle? Like, ground it for me. The best analogy I could think of is if you have your car and open up the glove compartment, that big fat book that you never look at is your owner's manual, right? If you ever get a flat tire or something that you're thinking, man, where does this car hide the jack? That's probably the only time you ever open it, right? So the owner's manual actually tells you what to do with your car. I mean, it gets into crazy detail, like if you're going to turn, flip the stick because it's the turn signal and it helps you turn, right? I mean, reading some of it, you think, man, do I really need to know this? And in other areas, it tells you things that you may not intuitively know. So we've all had it drilled into us, get maintenance every 3 months or 3,000 miles, right? Not true anymore. If you buy a new car, you actually need to look at the manual to see, is this one of the cars that only needs it every 5,000 miles, every 7,000, or the newer ones will do even only 10,000 miles, right? So that idea that we all got used to how to do it, I know you're all sitting there going, come on, I know how to take a case. They call in, they go, my computer's broken, I just write it down, no big deal, right? Absolutely. Same way you can drive your car. No big deal if you don't read everything in that manual, but you won't be operating it as effectively and as efficiently. So I found this out personally when I bought a little sporty car, a little convertible sports car. I'm driving it along and I'm thinking, man, this thing is a gas hog and it doesn't have nearly as much power as I expected from the horsepower on it. So one day, I actually look up this manual because I'm the crazy person who actually reads those things. And I realized, the manual actually tells you what the car has been rated at for the type of gas you're supposed to use. So whereas I would have normally said, I don't need a manual to tell me how to put gas in my car. I mean, really, does anybody not know how to put gas in their car? Right? So I open up the manual and it says, this car is most efficient at 92 octane. Well, does anybody have an idea of what the super premium button, the highest, most expensive one is at the gas station? 91, exactly. What do I do if I'm supposed to have 92, right? So ITIL is this book. It is your owner's manual. It's saying 92 is how you run most efficiently. So you hear a lot of people say, ITIL tells me exactly what to do. If I get 92 octane, I will run this car most efficiently. It'll be faster, it'll get better gas mileage, it'll have more horsepower. But how do I do that? I don't know. I mean, I'm actually a mechanical engineer by trade. My degree's in mechanical engineering. I studied internal combustion engines, and I'm feeling like an idiot outside the car going, how do I get 92 octane? The button only goes to 91. Right? So in those instances where, you need more efficiency, things aren't just, the easy old, okay, I can press the 91 button, the 89 button, or the 86 button. Then you have to figure it out. You have to become a little bit of a car aficionado and go, oh, they make octane booster. I now have to go to a car store and buy that. I've now taken on that extra little bit of maintenance for this, and is it worth it for what I'm going to get out of it? And this is what ITIL is. It is that book of what to do, and then you rely on either your business process vendors or your technology vendors or your internal trial and error process to figure out how to do that, right? So ITIL says, get that 92 octane, go do this, go do that, record incidents, roll them up into problems, manage known errors, because that's the best way to communicate, have a knowledge management system, run your service desk this way, go do it, right? And on the first steps of it, just like you heard from David, great. I'll use all the out-of-the-box tools that Salesforce has. I'll build some custom objects. I'll build some workflow. Awesome. But how do I do that if I want then full advantage out of it, right? So that's first step. And then the second step is really getting all of those specialties in there, really getting everything that allows you to either be high volume or high complexity or anything that takes you out of the basic 91 button, 89 button, or 86 button at the gas station, right? So this is where people pick and choose an ITIL. If you're looking for stats, I think in the U.S., companies of 1,000 employees or larger is what they track the most because they figure they have a really fully formed, separate functioning IT department. They have a little bit over 60% adoption rate in the U.S. of ITIL. So it's huge, but it's really huge overseas. It started in Europe. It's sponsored in Europe. They actually tout some countries with 100% adoption of ITIL. But again, the book's this long. I can take this slice of ITIL and then claim I'm ITIL and do ITIL, and it really will help me in that one piece. But you almost have an entire lifetime to grow to try to get to be all of ITIL. And there's very few companies in the world that do it all. So looking at the piece of the service desk here, oh, let me give you some numbers on KCS too, sorry, since we're talking about that. KCS also has some awesome increases because what happens is when you get the knowledge out of one person's head and you allow the entire group to work on it, then you improve it just that much more. So we actually have an example that I'm going to do in the other session if I've got enough people in there. And you'll see that easily we start talking about something we know, right? We can start talking about the gas example we're doing, something we all feel familiar with. And if I ask a room full of people, how do I get that 92 octane? I bet we all have a guess. But collectively, we actually have probably the top 1, 2, or 3 solutions of what I should do. Individually, we've probably guessed at something that may or may not work, and if it worked, great, but it wasn't that full picture of all my options. So this is what KCS does for you. You know, the numbers are up here. They're great. They've been studied over and over again in large companies. You're looking at Dell, Novell, Microsoft, Intuit, Symantec, those types of companies. Salesforce itself uses KCS as their process. So again, if you guys are interested in a little more of that, ITIL does recommends knowledge management. They don't go as far as KCS, so this is why I like you guys to bring them together, because ITIL says use the knowledge, integrate it, share knowledge, let's all be wonderful with knowledge. And KCS just tries to take that step further and give you a little more of the how to do that, not just the what to do. Real companies, real life, numbers that they've seen. Yeah, we've got VeriSign up there too. It's Judy from VeriSign. Thank you guys for sharing your info. And all these case studies are on the Consortium for Service Innovation website if you actually want to read about how they did it, or I can talk to you guys about how it works. But these numbers are fantastic, because when I walk into somebody and I say, how can I help you? They normally say, I'm just trying to get an 8% improvement in what we're doing. Or, you know, my employees feel that our response time needs to be cut in half, right? All of these numbers of the benefits that you get from ITIL and KCS far exceed what people are normally looking for. So the great thing is you can do it and not be perfect at it and still get amazing results. And that's what I look for. You know, realistically, none of us are perfect about any of the processes or anything that we do. So you want the results to be extremely high so that you can do just a piece of it and start to see results. So where do I start? We keep talking about ITIL's huge and big, and you can start in any one of these areas you want. I'm going to assume that since you guys are here today, you are like an overwhelming majority of companies in the U.S. who want to start at the service operations book, that orange arrow we saw in the circle. What does that mean for the IT help desk? It means I'm looking at tools and processes to help me with incident management, so employees reporting what's wrong, problem management, which is rolling up some incidents into some root cause problems, and knowledge management, which is looking at, ITIL calls them known errors, which are documenting things that you can't fix yet, and then all the knowledge that may help you with user manuals, training, FAQs, any sort of knowledge that will help you solve a repeat problem with that. The reason most people start there, Aberdeen Group asked this question. They found that 70% of the people who responded said the customer demand, so your employees, you know, raising their hand and saying IT isn't being responsive enough, is what drives you to start here with ITIL. In the U.S., often we actually end here. So of the, I think 87% of companies that decide to start with incident and problem management, like 83% of them actually stop at incident, problem, and knowledge management because the benefits are good enough. They use other processes for other things that they're doing, but that idea that if you need to start to grow and expand out into the other areas, ITIL has that full support for you. So offline I can talk to you guys about some things outside the IT help desk if you're interested in the full picture of ITIL. So what the organizers asked me to do, again, not as a product pitch up here, but to try to ground things is, hey, could you show your product? And then people have an idea of, what is this stuff, right? What does an incident really mean? It's a case. David referred to it as a case and a ticket, I think, in his presentation. ITIL says the official word is incident, so we can all choose the different words that we want for it. But basically, somebody's got a problem and they want to tell you about it, right? So these are our incidents. And I'm just going to bring up an example of Pit Viper that we have here and let you ground this here. So this is what an incident looks like. This is, just to give you guys an idea of what you're looking at, this is 100% native Force.com application where we have actually taken full control of the UI in Visualforce and Apex. So I know this looks very different from Salesforce for you guys, but it actually is all Salesforce all the time, all Visualforce and Apex here. So don't let those bits be jarring to you. But these are basic things that we know. We know incidents have basic metadata, right? Who called? When did they call? What's their problem about? Is it a database error? Is it a desktop issue? Is it an email issue? Is it a network connectivity issue, right? There's some very basic information that you need to track. And ITIL will actually get very specific about the minimum fields as a best practice that you need to track, and it lists them right out there. So, just giving you an idea of the expanded amount of information. Depends on how large and distributed you are as to whether location-based information is important. Do you even care about some of these things? Or whether it's just more about the person that's called in if you're in a smaller environment. Getting to the idea of the what versus the how. So ITIL tells you what to track here. And we had this reported by Edna. And if I choose to say I did not mean to have that reported by Edna, this was actually reported by Jane. What I can see here is as the system goes through, I can't actually see my screen, sorry. As the system goes through and updates itself to bring in all of Jane's information, you see how the colors on the screen changed? So Jane's actually a VIP in our system, so, a literal VP in the company. So if Jane's laptop goes down, we're responding very quickly, right? Whereas Edna, well, she is just a new hire, an analyst. She's probably got access to some other machines and other things that she can do. So this is part of the how that you want to translate into what works for your company. So one of the things that we decided in our app to do was try to communicate through color. So try to say, we color code things in more muted colors, darker colors if it has a lesser priority, and brighter, they're a gold person or a platinum person if they have higher SLAs. Things like that actually allow you to look at big lists of information and pick out the key important escalations or the VIPs that have issues going on. That's a perfect example of something you won't find in ITIL. Those are things that you know about your company and your team, about how large they are, about how they process information, and about how much you have going on. And, this is just one small example, but that's an idea of ITIL will absolutely tell me I need the field reported by. I absolutely need to know the priority of this, but it doesn't at all tell me how to track those, whether to do it in Excel, whether to do it in a centralized system, and how to make it real efficient for people to work with it, whether I color code things or not. So let's look at some other info that ITIL calls an incident. So obviously ITIL says we need some environment details. Salesforce does this really cool with the template types, I think, that you're referring to, where you can say, okay, great, these are the fields that were important to the type of issue or incident that I reported. They're going to be completely different things if I reported an issue with my company-supported BlackBerry, right? Do you really care what operating system it's running. Do I even know as a user what operating system my BlackBerry is running, right? It doesn't seem to be as relevant of an item. So you do want to try to segment out. It's not one set of environment information for everybody. Try to think of the different categories of incidents that you'll have within the company. Looking down here a bit, we actually integrate the ITIL recommended process of Kempner-Trago. So if you're an ITIL expert, you've probably seen one of the appendices that says, hey, Kempner-Trago is the way to solve problems and troubleshoot. So again, of our big circle pie, we're in one area, which is service operations. We're in one section of that area, which is the IT help desk. And now we're in a subsection of that area, which is, how do I actually solve a problem? Somebody calls up, I can't find it in the knowledge base. It's a new problem. It's hard to solve. How do I actually do that effectively and efficiently? And so there's an entire business process management company called Kempner-Trago. Been around for 50 years. More than 1 million people in the world use this. All the blue chip companies you can think of use this process. And so we actually put it right into the tool. And all these fields may not make a whole lot of sense to you if you're not Kempner-Trago trained, and that's okay. But what I encourage you guys to do is, if you're not going to be a Kempner-Trago process and be, strict ITIL like they recommend, just choose something. Just interview your IT guys and say, what do you think about when you're trying to break down a problem? Somebody called up and just said, email won't send. Okay. Can we get a little more specific, right? That could be anything. Exchange could be down. It could be a network issue. It could be a desktop client issue if they're trying to do it from Outlook, right? What do you mean, right? Let's break down and clarify. And, we don't have to get detailed troubleshooting wizards that are asking the exact questions. But having some sort of methodology that your whole team shares, that if they need to hand it off to someone, they know exactly where to look in the incident and say, oh, yeah, they did ask that question. And it was about, connectivity in general or something like that. Just put it into your app or your process of whatever you're doing. Do something. It will very much help your team. Your other alternative is the typical incident notes or case notes if you're using the case object. Very ineffective, very inefficient. So choose something. Choose Kempner-Trago if you're interested in that process. Interview your guys. Find out commonly what they're actually doing in their head and on scraps of paper when they solve it. But actually integrate it into the tool. Don't let all that knowledge go by the wayside, and then all you get to see in the end is the summary. Here was the cause. And sometimes, we don't even record the cause. We just let them record the solution and say, that's it. This is what solved it. And then you go back and read it and you go, but how or why? And how did they know that? So you want that information captured right there in the incident. It especially helps when you need to hand it over. If you're big enough to have a tiered IT help desk, this is crucial. Other things that I can tell you. So these are incidents we've looked at. Problems, not much need to go into details of problems, because if you get incidents, you get problems. Problems are a roll-up of incidents. The difference is a problem wasn't reported by someone. It was reported by many people, because it's all the incidents collectively that link into a single problem. So if you're a tiered agency, then it's your tier 2 or your tier 3 that's working on the problems. There's no one person they need to interface with, but you do want your notifications to go out to everybody who reported every incident linked to that problem. If you're a smaller group where it's just your IT group, then you probably have a set of engineers that aren't actually considered part of the IT help desk but are part of IT. They're the ones that you'll probably have working on these problems, right? Because they're the actual root cause issue of what's going on here. Again, do things to help your guys out. Since I showed you on incident some of the communication with color, again, it's not going to be about an SLA here on problems, because I don't have a person, but I do have a priority, and that's a rolled up priority from all the incidents that have been reported, the quantity of them, the severity of them. So do something to engage your users, communicate with color, do things like that where I understand very easily if I'm working on this problem how critical it is without having to read 100 fields. Now, of course, ITIL will tell you exactly which fields to track. You want to make it easy. What you see up here as these incident concerns is actually every incident. The one, in fact, we were just looking at is attached to this problem. So every incident that's attached to this problem, it's going to bring in the core data from it. Because if you're solving a problem, you need to understand everything that everybody's reported in every incident, otherwise you're not getting the full picture. But do you really want to open 20 incidents and have all these windows up? So again, this is the difference between what to do. So ITIL will absolutely tell you, make sure you can relate incidents and problems, and how to do it. Watch your guys and how they work. They really don't want 20 incidents up. They'll just skip and kind of not look at them and try to solve the problem without it. So choose a tool and a technology that allows you to work the way people want to work and just bring all that information in. If you're Kepner Trago people, then their next process is called problem analysis. That's the harder way. That's the next way to solve harder problems. So it's a more complex problem-solving process than the situation appraisal we saw on incidents. So we can skip past that for anybody who's not a KTer here. But again, I encourage you, put whatever your process is into the app, give it structure, and then the ability to communicate out causes and solutions. So we haven't talked much here about the knowledge side, right? This looks more like data capture, data entry. We talked a little bit about the workflow. We didn't actually do the linking, but you can see how these things are linked. So the things that you want to do, and we're hooked up with Salesforce Knowledge here, so I will just give you guys this is a sample solution here. So if I'm actually typing in, hey, this is how I solve the problem. If it's a known error, so something I can't fix, outside vendor software, a project that's on the roadmap with your project requests, I don't have control to fix everything today. ITIL actually tells me record these things as a known error. So make it easy for your guys to do this because they won't use the knowledge base if you don't integrate it into the process again. So ITIL tells you put it all in the KB. They don't tell you how to do it, right? The what, not the how. So that's where you need to figure out how much of this can you do yourself. So this is actually a Salesforce Knowledge screen. I don't know how many of you guys have seen the new Salesforce Knowledge. This is what one of the contribution screen looks like that we've configured to be a known error. And we can just submit it directly there from the problem. So it doesn't get much easier than that. I'm actually logged in as a KCS level 3. So for those of you who know KCS, it means I have auto publishing rights, which means if you were watching my screen, I didn't touch anything. It auto-submitted it to workflow. It checked my approval rights. It came back to me. It said, well, you have rights to auto-publish. It went back out. It told the system to auto-publish. It came back to me. It said, it's now available online. Then it went back out, and it linked this new known error to this problem and came back. That's the how that you guys want to think about. The what is right there in the ITIL books that's telling you link it and store it. But think about how do we really, have these things happen very easily along the process. So the cool thing about this is, so great, I just added a new problem, a new KB article as a known error in there. But that's just sitting there, right? If you build it, they will come, sort of. If you put knowledge in, they will find it, right? You want to publish these things out. So one of the things that we put in our tool, I think you'll find in a lot of tools out there, most recent known errors out there. Because your IT help desk, things that affect one person often affect a lot of people all at once, right? So choose a recent feed of things. When Chatter's releasing, you start using that. Maybe use the Chatter functionality if you're building some of the out-of-the-box stuff. Use something that when this info goes in, it's not, the silent tree falling in the woods. You want it pushed out to all your agents all the time. In fact, I would challenge you, take it a step further. Do things like, if you're looking at the top right hand of the screen here, these are actually system-wide alerts. We think everyone on the system needs to know these very important things. Email system is down. Building 7 has general network connectivity is spotty right now. Things that don't even get into the incident and problem process because these are huge things that are going on. Put them right out in front. And then take it to the next level where everything else that's going on in the system can be easily accessed because you don't want lots of duplication. So recent problems. The chance of getting 2 phone calls, 3 phone calls, 4 phone calls when something's happening with email, extremely high, right? So the first guy creates the problem off the incident and everybody else just keeps linking to it so that we know how widespread this is and we're getting more and more info. But I don't want to have to go digging through all those problems. I mean, IT Help Desk is often very time sensitive about things that are happening. So just push that info right out there for everybody to see. The recent known errors, we just talked about that. And then, hey, if we're going to do KCS, let's actually push the rest of the knowledge out. What if there's a new release of something that came out and a lot of the questions are actually more training questions? I'm not going to have a massive alert across the top of my entire app for a training question, probably. I'm not going to put in a known error because it's nothing that's wrong. But it is knowledge that we need to share with the team and we need to share with our users. So try to think holistically about all the things that you're doing there. So the last bit of advice that I'll give you guys when you're trying to do ITIL and what it looks and feels like, actually I think I have it open here, is do something that helps everybody get a grip on everything. So what we've done in our tool, and I think there's completely different ways of doing this, this is just one idea, is we've decided to create a Salesforce knowledge channel or template called System Status. So it is knowledge in the true sense of knowledge, but in our application we treat it as transient knowledge. It's only as interesting until the date that you say done, fixed, over, no longer an issue, right? So I can actually log into this app after being gone all weekend. I can come to the System Status tab and I can see everything for every system where somebody's either said there's a slowdown with it, a complete failure with it, a service interruption with it, or oppositely, report the positive things too. You want to know when things have just come back up because you'll still get the phone calls for the next hour or two of people who tried it back then and haven't been back to their desk and are just now calling in, right? So you actually want the green status things as well. Allow those things to be easily seen and accessed, whether you're using Salesforce Knowledge or you're using the old solutions objects that's out there, or you maybe create your own custom object for something to do with a system status. You want that holistic view of, I just got here to work, I just sat down at the desk, what's going on? And you want it from a knowledge perspective as well as a task perspective. So the inbox is the one that you guys are probably most familiar with as the home page in Salesforce. And we're all used to putting, okay, my open incidents, my tasks, my things I'm supposed to work on there. And that's great. But don't forget to put the lists of knowledge, the system status lists, the most recent published known errors, the most recent published KB articles, because that's almost as important as the things I'm supposed to work on, is getting up to speed with everything that's just happened and doing it instantly. I don't need to go to a status meeting with IT for 15 minutes every morning to figure out what's going on. If you can just put all the info at a glance right here in the system. Does that help ground it some for you guys? Do you have questions? I know I've talked a lot here, so please, I want to turn it over to you guys for any of us.
If you have questions, raise your hands. I'll bring the mic to you.
Our current version of Salesforce doesn't allow for our employees or end users to log in to customer portal. It's like some limitation. How do we overcome that?
So the question is like our Salesforce has two different portals. One is the self-service portal, and then there's the customer portal. Initially, when we rolled it out, we said it's only available for your end customers to use the portal. But now we are working with customers where we're giving them access to the customer portal to use it as an employee portal. So I'll recommend talk to your account executive from Salesforce, and they can give you more information on how to get that done. Okay. Next question.
Come on, we can't have done such a great job that nobody has a question.
After that great presentation, I'm sure there are questions.
We're a little tired, so the brain's a little bit slower today. Amanda, you talked about the best practice of if you have a bunch of incidents that are all related and being able to pull them together. So I'm just trying to figure out, okay, now in Salesforce, how do you do that? A whole bunch of cases are coming in, and someone's working on that. What's the best practice within Salesforce to link those together?
So if you played around with the Salesforce case object, so you know how you can set up so that you can do case-to-case linking? So you would do very similar, whether you guys, choose to build it your own on the case object or whether you just create your own custom object called incidents. Being able to link them together is, what I call the very first step. So even if you're not ready to separate them out and say, I'm going to deal with problems, which are the root issues, and incidents separately, at a minimum, just do a related object to itself, so cases to cases or incidents to incidents, and that way you can at least start to see the cluster. Of course, the ideal of the second step you want to do is to define another object, which is problems, which would be very similar, and then just link all those incidents to the problem. That also means that you're going to want to put a problem search on your incident page, right? Because how do I know which problem to link it to? And those are pretty basic configuration things that you can do with Salesforce out of the box.
And just to add to that, right, so Salesforce also supports like parent-child relationships. So if you think about a problem, then problem becomes the parent case, and everybody else who calls for the same problem becomes child cases that you tie the two together with. So as we went through this presentation, I think the key part we wanted to highlight was, so if you talk about problems, you can easily build that in Salesforce. You have a problem object, and then you have child cases or a custom object, which could be the other different people calling for the same problem and issue. What Amanda has helped us do is take all the best practices and make it available to you out of the box with their offering. So now, if instead of you building the custom objects, you can just use that solution, which has all of this built out of the box. Okay. Next question.
The question kind of comes up from what was just discussed, but so when you were talking about the workflow of what you had built when you have an incident and you can search the problems, is there workflow that was built on top of this to actually do an automatic search every time an incident is committed to the database that looks for the problems?
Yes, we actually built that, not only auto searching from object to object, which is searching all the open incidents to see if there's any other commonalities, and searching all the open problems, but we also search Salesforce knowledge as well, because what if it doesn't have an open problem? It was something we've known about for years, so now it doesn't need any more investigation. It's just a known error that's sitting out there. So for us, that looks like if I'm on an incident here, one of the ways that we can do it right in line here is, do you see our searches? I want to search across all incidents and problems. And this is what, well, I'm on a demo system and their data apparently. Let's try search for email. So you can get all of your, everything that starts with a P in our system is a problem. Everything that starts with an IN is an incident. If we actually had known errors in the system, they'd show up, and then we can filter it down if you kind of know what you're looking for. I also encourage you guys, if you're building this on your own, build some things that make it easy for people, like an inline search. So instead of bringing up the search results here, all I did was begin to type the word email, and you'll see the inline searcher is coming in. Your audience is a technology audience for this, right? Your IT guys, they don't wait around for things that are slow or not cool and slick. So spend that extra tiny bit of time to do some of the inline processes to automatically search for these things.
Okay, next question.
I have a question. Where can we find out more information? Are you on App Exchange?
Oh, it's almost like I softballed that question to you. PitViper actually was just released here at the show, so I don't think it's made it through the App Exchange posting process. Takes 2 or 3 weeks. So the best way to find out more about PitViper from us is to just call me or Joe. I've got Joe here if you'll raise his hand here with me because I do have to run to the next session. So if you guys have any questions, want more info, want a real demo and instead of the very few things that I've shown you here, just feel free to ask. Or if you just want advice in general of where do I start, what do I do, just ask us. And we do have our services listing on AppExchange too. So if you forget all about us, as long as you can remember Stone Cobra, you'll at least find our services listing on AppExchange.
Great.
Thank you.
Sure.
And so a couple more things here. Get back to the slides. So we definitely would love to get your feedback on this session. If you could go and give us that feedback, there are a few booths we have for surveys, and David himself has won an iPod Nano. You have a better chance to win an iPod Nano today than the other days at Dreamforce. So definitely need your feedback. That slide came before the other one. And if you guys haven't checked out the Service Cloud 2 booth that we have at the Expo, where we really talk about either the service desk, but also every functionality that Salesforce has to offer, going towards social media, managing social media, looking at customer portal or online strategies. Definitely go check that out as well. So with that, I want to thank you, David. Thank you, Amanda. And thanks, everyone, for joining us today.
Thank you.